Order. It is 4:45 on July 28th. We are at the Arvin Education Center for our regularly scheduled July board meeting. Just a couple of introductions. We have some first tonight. We'd like to welcome Miss Claudette Harold, very first meeting here, very exciting. And then we have Dominic Cedillo, who is representing District 4 on our board team. Welcome, Dominic.
Thank you.
We're excited to have you here as well.
At this time, we would like to do a moment of silence for two individuals impacted through Oldham County Schools. The first is Elijah Pasha, who has just recently passed, a student of South Oldham High School. And then our second is Mr. Brad Rogers, who is a retired band director from Oldham County High School that was still working with our students in a different capacity. So at this time, we would like to do a moment of silence.
Thank you for that. Next, we need to approve the agenda. Ms. Harold, any changes to the agenda?
Yes, a couple of things to note on the agenda for tonight. Underneath instructional session, I'm going to ask that Brent Bohannon just give us an end of summer construction update. Those will typically fall underneath of that, so I want to make sure that we hear from him on that piece. And then also underneath the superintendent reports with the action items, you'll see that there is a KSBA second reading of policy updates. Two things that we need to note. We will do a first reading on our medication policy. We've heard from our district health coordinator and need to make changes and have that as a first reading tonight. Our second one that we are going to table, we want to hear public comment, and then we are going to continue to work with our stakeholder groups, and that will be the cell phone policy. Hopefully parents have received information and can speak on that tonight in public comment, but we're also meeting with some different stakeholder groups before we bring that back to an official first reading.
And we did get it confirmed, pushing it, we can get it by the first of the school year.
Absolutely. Good question. The other thing to note on the amendment is that we have a revision that we'll need to acknowledge to the waiver for traceable communication to remove the expiration date so that parents don't have to continually apply for a waiver, submit it, and then once it's expired, do that again. So just ask for that expiration date to be removed from the waiver as an amendment.
And so just to confirm on the cell phone policy, we have some additional conversations that we want to have, but we will have two different special called meetings before the school year, so it will be in effect by August 13th, just to confirm that. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the agenda with those changes made by Ms. Sheffer, seconded by Mr. Cedillo? All those in favor? And that's 5-0. We do not have an instructional session tonight. Oh, I'm sorry. If everybody could join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Passed over that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, okay. Brent, have some updates for us? Yeah, no, it's perfect. Sure, Mike.
No, it's not coming through.
All right.
He likes the chord for his karaoke session.
Yeah, that's
so.
right. Usually wear the Bobby Brown headpiece.
In sync.
Bobby
Insane.
Brown, don't date yourself.
Way back.
Brett.
It's his prerogative.
Yes, thank you for allowing me to speak. I want to give you all kind of an update. You all have in your report the kind of the full facilities update, but I want to hit some of the operation critical highlights that we've got towards the end of the summer here, and how they may impact school coming up in August. First off, the district-wide landscape and site improvement project, the board approved that contract in July. They've been busy working out at Centerfield. And it looks like we'll have the majority of that site work put back together by the end of this month. Some of the site features as far as that bike racks, some of the signage and stuff like that will follow in the months. But as far as pavement, sidewalks, and the road widening on that should be complete here in the next week or so. The stadium upgrades, as you all could have seen as you're coming in there, the paving company was pulling off at Oldham County High School this evening, and that was the last piece of built construction that needed to be out there. So I'll say Oldham County High School stadium improvements is substantially complete. At North Oldham High School, seed sod straw is going in, and fencing work continues this week. So I would say probably within the next week or so, we'll be substantially complete at that site as well. The scoreboard has been installed, has been up and running and tested, including the LED signs at both of the sites. And we've had a kind of a preliminary training with both of the athletic directors and some of their staff on how to kind of get those up and running and operational. A little bit of a learning curve with it, so some of the things might be a little out of scale. We're trying to get our logos and things on that, but we'll have a more in-depth training with that as we go through in the next month. And once kids get back into classes and stuff, we want to really incorporate some of their their journalism and media classes to help put together some media for those devices. South Oldham High School, the temporary classrooms, I would say they're pretty much substantially complete with installing the temporary classrooms in that building to make way for the new construction project, which bids out on Wednesday at 2 o'clock. So that will be a large package of multiple trades that we'll be bringing to you all for the August board meeting for consideration. We've got a few more things that we need to do there to get tidied up as far as crowd control, getting kids in and off the buses, and then make sure that we meet all of our egress components and have the building inspector out there to make sure that everything jives with them so that we can occupy that. But I think we're in really good shape with that.
Can I ask a question, Brent?
Yeah.
What, in the amount of time between us approving contractors or a bid and them starting, what's the time frame?
So we'll bid, like I said, we'll bid out the 30-something packages on Wednesday. We'll spend the next week going through those, interviewing each of the bid packages with Weir Construction, with the construction manager, kind of doing our due diligence on each of the individual contracts, and then we'll start to put together contracts for that. So like I said, in August, we'll probably have all of that ready for you guys to take a look at and approve as one enclosure, but it'll have multiple facets to it. At that part, then we'll start doing the contractual, signing the contracts, getting those to KDE and getting those approvals. So that'll probably take another 30 days on that, and then mobilization will start in there. So we're probably looking in the end of September, early October before construction's really going on site there. But the paperwork should start flowing August, September.
Okay, thank you.
Buckner High School and the Oldham County High School improvements, as you all can see, the building is gone, finally. The piles are starting to be removed from the site. You can actually see across campus, which is nice. Obviously, the abatement was completed early in July, and since then they've been removing that. And if you look closely, you'll notice that some vertical concrete walls are coming out of the ground as well. Some formworks started on that. So the mission critical portion of that right now is the storm drain cutting across the front driveway. So if you've been in the front parking lot there, we've got a partitioned area off, and it's got some large concrete reinforced structures out there. Getting that removed and replaced, and then off the sidewalk is our most critical thing that needs to happen before school starts there. And they're actually up to the sidewalk now, so hoping maybe we go a day or two without rain, and that'll help us with our schedule. But we don't think that that's going to be an issue right now. The Odom County Preschool expansion and roof replacement, that project's substantially complete now. The contractors continue to work on punch list stuff, but has demobilized from that site. The site access and site improvement and access improvements at various elementary schools are the playground projects. We've got Crestwood is substantially complete, I would say. Camden is about a day or two away from being substantially complete. They need to finish up a little bit of board in place on that surface, and then do the fencing on that. The same company that's doing the fencing at North will be doing that, so they'll probably be doing that while they're in town this week. I would hope so. The Buckner Elementary School, I would say, is 95% complete out there. They were putting seed and straw out, and then sodding around those play surfaces, and then the turf surface out there, they're putting the stripes on that and cleaning up around the edges. So maybe another 2 weeks on that to get it cleaned up and get off those sites. Then their focus is going to have to shift straight to Goshen. We are still holding off letting them touch Harmony until they turn over some schools to us. We can't
Turn over some what?
turn over some schools instead of continuing
gotcha.
to
Finish
tear up, finish one, give us one back,
Okay.
and then we'll turn them loose on that one.
So are the same people working on Goshen that are working on these
Yes,
other ones?
yes.
Because,
It's all the same contractor.
okay,
And what's the estimated time of finish once they get going?
So Goshen, they're substantially behind. I would say 3 weeks, maybe 4
Okay.
weeks, probably behind where we were really hoping that they would be now.
Yeah.
So once they are able to focus specifically on Goshen instead of doing sod at this school, then trucking it over to a different school and doing sod there, when they can get kind of focused on one building, I think it'll move rather quickly. They've got curbs installed out there. They've started to put that in. The storm drainage at Goshen was a little bit of a holdup, reportedly. I'm not sure I agree with it 100%, but so they have all the materials on site, and they just need to finish these other 3 schools up and get over there and get going on it. At that time, we'll take a hard look at what their anticipated schedule is for Harmony, talk with the principal, talk with that school community, and see when they're ready to turn them loose out there.
Can they keep the existing playground since they're moving the location of the new playground
Where's this?
at Harmony? Or is it going to all be a construction
It's
site?
it's all going to be construction sites. Pretty much the entirety of the site's going to be torn up and put back. Yeah, if you picture where that wraps around the building, all the way up to the pavement will be
Yeah.
different surfaces, and then a new structure in there as well.
so for Goshen, would you say, is that like 3 to 4
I'm hoping
weeks
that we
from
can.
now?
I'm hoping that we can get
Start.
Goshen caught back up to where we are now with the other 3 schools by September. So I'm thinking we're about 3 or 4 weeks behind where they should be right
Okay.
now.
So like 2 weeks into school, you feel like that could potentially be ready to go?
Yeah, I would probably lean towards 3 or 4, but yeah,
Okay.
I would love to see it at 2, but
Yeah, me too.
I would be hesitant to.
Promise.
The way it's been raining, I'd be hesitant to say that they can get that cleaned up in 2 weeks out there, or 3 weeks, or 2 weeks into the school year.
So would you say it's 100% because of weather?
No.
Okay,
I would say it's 75% because of the weather. We've had obviously, everybody knows, we've had significant rains, and it's not just the amount of rain, it's the frequency of it. Every time you go out to move some dirt around or whatever, and it rains, an inch overnight, and then it sets you back a day. But no, that by no stretch of the imagination is the fully to blame for the delays.
okay.
And then in your all's package there, we've got some updated pictures of those projects for your viewing pleasure there. I think those are the most critical things that we have still actively, or that will continue into the first weeks of school. Did y'all have any more questions that you want me to touch on?
Can you just quickly, Dominic, nice to meet you.
Brent, it's nice to meet you.
I know you mentioned the weather issues. Obviously, when you're bidding on a contract, you are also, projecting that you can hire and build up crews to be able to manage multi-site projects and things like that. Is that a piece of it? And
Yes.
how have they responded to,
Yeah,
accountability?
so when we put a contract together, we have allowable weather days, which is basically, it actually comes from, it's in every contract.
Yeah.
So you can expect it to rain more in April than it does in June usually. You can expect it to rain, you're gonna have some precipitation in December and January that will affect construction, especially if you're doing concrete work in low temperatures and stuff like that. So when we have in excess of those days, the contractor is allowed to request additional days due to weather. So when they request, they may send in and say, it was a really wet spring. In March, we had 15 days of rain. Our architects and engineers will sit down, we'll go through it, and we'll take 15 days, okay, but you could have expected 9 reasonably in the contract. So, so 6 days plus to the contract is kind of the net on that. So that, we were up to 15 additional days, including the normal weather days, by March or April. We were getting close to that. So there still is an opportunity for some other days because we've had excessively wet June and July as well. But at the end of the day, some of that should have been accounted for within the contract. Manning up the job to get it done is required as part of the contract, working double shifts, working weekends, whatever you need to do to make up of it. Those things are included in it. So all of that being said, the final substantial completion date can be adjusted by the board based on what's a reasonable expectation. And then beyond that, they're contractually obligated to meet those days, or the board has the right to seek liquidated damages for that.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bohannon.
Thanks, Brent.
Next up, Ms. Alexander for our treasurer's report. How are you? Good.
All right, so this is our treasurer's report for June, so we're excited that we've closed the year officially and opened the new year for fiscal '26. In your board packet, I'll start off with report number 1. It's the summary of all our funds with the beginning balance as it reflects our receipts and disbursements for the month. You can see there on the first one, the ending balance for the governmental funds was just over $96 million. Following that, you have the activity fund, food service, daycare, with a grand total for the first half of that for $105 million. The next section on that paper is our bonded construction. That has just a little over $50 million. And then the last section on that page is our investment account, which is a total of $16.8 million. And then if you look at report number 2, it just kind of breaks down report number 1 a little bit further. It gives you all the individual funds that are included. It gives you the general fund balance, and then all the funds, all the governmental funds in detail. In report number 2, you have the reflection of the district activity, capital outlay, building fund, construction, and debt service as well. And then if you move on to report number 3, this is our historical report. We have ended our year, and our revenues, they exceeded our budget, so that's always good. And our salaries and general fund expenditures, they came in below our budget. It also has a breakdown of individual revenue accounts in comparison to the prior years. So, we're doing good with that. We received all of our SEEK funding, all of our capital outlay. We did receive the balance from the state equalization funds in June. Behind report 3 is report 4 that just shows historical trends across all revenue accounts. And then report 7 is our traditional balance sheet, and report 8 is our income statement. That is the report for June. I'll have a little bit more when I talk about the AFR in a little while, but that's all I have to present to you for the treasurer's report. If you have any questions.
Any questions?
No.
Can I get a motion to approve?
Thank you.
Made by Ms. Sheffer, seconded by Mr. Springer. All those in favor? And that's 5-0. Next, we need to approve a couple of meeting minutes. The first one is the June 9th special called regular meeting. Can I get a motion to approve? Made by Mr. Springer, seconded by Ms. Henley. All those in favor? And that's 5-0.
Can I abstain? I wasn't here.
Oh, yeah.
How we handle
Yeah,
it?
that's fine.
Okay. Okay, so it's 4-0 with
One
Dominic
abstention.
abstaining. And then June 25th, a special called meeting. Any questions? All those in favor? Or can I get a motion to approve? All those in favor? And that's 4-0 with a, he'll abstain on that as well. All right. Moving right along, personnel actions. Ms. Harold?
You'll see in your packet that you have a current list of employees that have gone through retirement, resignation, new hire. So just take those under advisement, no action needed. That is for your reference only of what we've been working through.
Perfect. And then consent items. Any questions on consent items? No? All right, can I get a motion to approve consent items? Made by Ms. Sheffer, seconded by Ms. Henley. All those in favor? And that's 5-0. Next, superintendent reports, Ms. Harold.
You'll see an attachment in there that Dr. Smith has placed in for Camp Literacy Live. He is here to answer any questions. One of my first walkthroughs of LaGrange Elementary, they had actually just started the 3-week literacy program. And so it was really neat to see the students coming in, and they were in the cafeteria at that time. So you do have a flyer in there. And if you do have any questions, we can answer those for you. Item B on that one, I'm going to have Ms. Carey come back up and just give us a basic update on our unaudited financial standing.
Yes, so attached in there you have our unaudited AFR. It's due to the state by the 25th. So we already uploaded that and sent that through. Very glad to have that part finished. We will bring you the auditor report after our auditor, should be ready by November the 15th. However, I am pleased to present that the good news is we ended the year very, very strong. As you can see highlighted in the enclosure, we had a general fund balance of over $37.5 million. We had revenues and expenses noted. We had revenues in the general fund of $112.6 million as compared to our budget of $105 million. And then we had expenses of $110 million compared to our budget of $112. So that is all reflective of the report. I did want to highlight and make mention that this is also a report that we have to do with our general accounting principles. That it's not in this one, but it will be for the final audit. We wait for KDE to give us the on behalf. So as soon as we get all the numbers from the on behalf, we put those in there. It's just an in and an out. Basically, they pay for the your health reimbursements and things like that. We just have to put the expenses in and the revenues in, so it balances out. The other significant fund balances are listed there, one by one at the end of the enclosure. And there's really, we could have a little bit change, but pretty much those are going to be the numbers with just a few things to tweak as the auditor comes in. But again, everything looks really good. We still stayed with the 18 million contingency right now. So,
Thank you.
do you have any questions?
Ooh, Carrie, I have a
Yes.
question. So we voted on a lot of stuff back in March or April on betting on having, so the money that we have will cover the stuff that we
Yes.
voted on, correct?
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
I just want to make sure.
Yes.
Thank you.
No problem.
Item C there is the KSBA second reading policy updates. When I mentioned earlier that we were going to table one of those policies related to cell phones and come back to that in a different meeting. And then we are going to do a first reading on the medication policy, and so that information is in the attachment in the action items. I did want to note with the two-way traceable communication that we need to comply with, we have gone through 3 different webinars as a team to look at which option would be best. And so we are ready and are moving forward with talking points as our traceable communication. We felt like it was really important for our staff to start working through that, so they will get information before school starts, so that that will be a seamless transition to meet that requirement as well.
And then the waiver is that on our website?
Yes,
Nikki?
it's
yet.
electronic.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome. Thank you.
That is it for me on
Good to
that.
go?
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you for that. Next up, we have public expression. You wanna read our public expression?
Hold on.
Eric's bringing in.
Okay. Thanks. Bear with us just 1 minute here.
Is this different? That's not it, is it? Well, it's kind of like it. Okay. Each regular meeting shall include a public comment period of at least 15 minutes. Any board rules and policies regarding conduct during school board meetings shall apply during the public comment period. Individuals or groups should contact the office of the superintendent prior to meet in order to be included on the agenda. Persons wishing to address the board must be recognized by the chairperson to address the agenda item and should seek recognition at the time. This is a little different. I guess it will rule on the relevance as a whole, the board as a whole.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. We have, let's see, 8 speakers. Are you guys good with 4 minutes?
4 minutes.
Okay.
Yes.
First up, we have Alexandra. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. So good evening, members of the board. My name is Alexandra Panaretos, and I've spent almost 20 years as a globally recognized expert in human behavior, psychology, intelligence, and cybersecurity. The governor awarded me as a Kentucky Colonel for my work with children and online behavior such as sextortion, cyberbullying, human trafficking, and digital addiction. So this is a topic near and dear to my heart. I've had 3 kids in the Oldham County School Districts. 2 have recently graduated, and I have 1 that remains. I have studied and evaluated the impact of technology on human behavior, working with governments, global companies, and school systems on how digital devices influence security, learning, attention, and development. So I do appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I recognize and commend your alignment with the House Bill 208. However, as we seek to implement these well-intentioned changes, we must take a clearer-eyed look at the broader picture because the phones are just the tip of the iceberg. Students today live in a fully connected ecosystem. Even though we remove a phone, we have decided to place a Chromebook or tablet into the hands of every student, which then becomes the next gateway. Apps like TikTok, Snapchat, Discord, YouTube, etc. are all available on almost any internet-enabled device, and the blocking and filters that have been placed by the district are easily manipulated to gain access. In fact, many of the school-issued Chromebooks allow for quick toggling between the class tabs and entertainment or messaging platforms. I've tested it myself. Using different browsers, VPNs, and sharing links within Google Documents allows the access that we seek to ban and to eliminate the phones from the classroom. While phones are the obvious culprit, they are not the only distraction in the room, and often, not the most insidious. While we're talking about reducing distraction, the reality is we're still handing it to them just with a Chromebook keyboard instead of a touch screen. And let's be honest, any connected device in a learning environment can fragment attention. Cognitive science tells us that the human brain is not wired for rapid task switching, and the opportunities we introduce for distraction, be it a notification, a new tab, ping, the harder it becomes for these students to engage with the material. Since the widespread use of smartphones around 2005, we've seen measurable declines in sustained attention, memory recall, and classroom participation. These aren't just anecdotes, they are peer-reviewed global findings echoed in classrooms and workplaces every day. You can see it just in this meeting. Most people have a device in their hand and haven't looked up. We know from the research that the average human attention span has shrunk to 6 minutes. 6 minutes before the brain seeks something new, a dopamine hit, a quick reward, or a moment of stimulation. This is not a discipline problem. It's a neurological rewiring shaped by years of instant access, constant feedback, and endless scrolling. We have taught the brain how it is unable to be bored and live in the quiet. This is where it becomes more difficult. They are modeling it from us. They watch adults jump from app to app, answer every ding of a notification, glance at our phones during meals, conversations, even while driving. We have shaped their sense of what normal focus looks like, and that bar is frighteningly low. If we want to eliminate these distractions in the classroom, we have to go back to an analog way, return to books, paper, and pencils, meaningful eye contact. We should create a space where students can think without a blinking cursor or temptation of a new tab. Technology has its place, but that place cannot be anywhere all the time. Now, because banning phones and technology entirely, while tempting, drives new challenges. In fact, if a phone ban were implemented without alternatives, I would recommend a guess that schools will see an increase in 504 and IEPs from parents asserting now that their children require devices to manage anxiety, focus, or communication. This would once again inadvertently shift the burden back onto teachers and administrators to manage individualized exceptions, creating inconsistency and frustration. A common use that I've seen in classrooms across the country and even here at Oldham County is a clear shoe holder. It keeps the phones in the room. The children have a well-mounted pocket where they can see their phone. It also allows for access and connectivity for those that have medical needs. If it's a diabetic monitor, et cetera, it's still within Bluetooth range. It puts the device physically out of reach, and it's not a punitive measure, but transparent compromise. Teachers are still able to let the children use their phones when the lesson is done, or in cases of emergency, it's still within the children's reach. If you were to do this at a district cost, it's less than $5 a classroom. House Bill 208 wisely directs the schools to block access on social media to filter this inappropriate content, but the filtering alone does not change the behavior. I see it every day. We have to model that the classroom is a space for focus, not passive scrolling and cyberbullying. This is something that parents have the duty to teach at home. I know that some will argue that a phone ban is too extreme, and others will argue it's not enough. And if you believe that it's reasonable for students to go all day without access to their phone, are you willing to do the same? If you do support a full classroom ban, just to test this out, put your phone on the floor in front of you and don't touch it for the remainder of this meeting. If that makes you uncomfortable, if you feel a pang of anxiety about being separated from your device, imagine what we're asking for a child who's never known anything but. That hesitation, that resistance is the very evidence that we need. If we can't model sustained presence and device-free attention, we can't expect students to develop or execute it. Our goal should be balanced structure, not blanket restrictions. Students need to learn how to be present in this ever-connected world, not just when to hang your phone up. This begins with thoughtful policy, consistent enforcement, and above all, empathy for what today's learners face. I don't think adults today realize the pressure this generation is under. They don't have the luxury to fail and recover in private. There is something somewhere always monitoring them, recording them, and the pressure to be perfect exists on brains that are not well developed. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter and commitment to meaningful education in the digital age.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Cassie? Hello, how are you? Good.
Thank you for having me. I actually feel like I could just take this 4 minutes to say thank you because you all do so much, and we're so grateful for everything that you do, and you give up your time, and you listen to people, and you make so many important decisions for our kiddos. So I really do want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, and we're so glad to have you.
Thank you.
Yes. So I'm the director of LifeWise, and I know I was here at the last board meeting that was regularly scheduled in June, on June 9th. And so I'll just give you a little bit of a rundown. I know you have not heard of it before. So LifeWise is Bible-based character education for public school students during the school day. So our program has actually been proven to increase overall attendance and decrease in-school and out-of-school suspension, and is completely free to the district. So actually LifeWise is in, I think, 33 states now, nationally. So they are doing this in lots of communities, and it has been going since 2019. So LifeWise is here to serve the community and the district Our heart is to serve. I could stand up here and tell you how many people that we have ready to serve in this way, in this program. But my words would not, we brought lots of people with us to show you how much, and this is just a handful of them, how much this program means to our community and how many people are willing to serve in this way. We actually have also I think we have 234 people signed our interest list that they want to see this in the community, and that's not even scratching the surface. So I wanted to come tonight to tell you a little bit about the history of where we have been with LifeWise in the district, because things have changed in the legislation. So in December of 2024, one of our board members wrote an email to Dr. Radford and asked about implementing LifeWise. And then in February of 2025, our board members had a meeting with Brent Deves, Liz Dant, Jenna Dalton, Dylan Smith, and Matt Jacobson. And after that meeting, they left with positive comments, positive feedback we got from that. And then we met again with Kristen Wilson, the principal of Locust Grove Elementary School, which is where we hope to start, and again got positive feedback from her. We weren't real sure on if we had approval yet, but what happened is Mr. Deves ended up reaching out to Kristen Wilson and told her that they could vote, the SBDM could vote on this program. So then we went to the SBDM meeting at Locust Grove, we presented, they voted and approved our program to start in the fall, which we're very excited about. So what happened after that, though, is I actually met with Ms. Wilson and Mr. Lund. We went through and worked out our logistics. So we came up with a plan of when we were going to take the kids. It was going to be during related arts time, potentially on a Wednesday. And we would be taking them for 50 minutes, so just one day a week, 50 minutes, take them to Ballardsville Baptist, teach them a Bible lesson, then bring them back to school. And we would do that for grades 3 to 5. So that was our plan. We had more to work out after that initial meeting, but then we got an email from Mr. Deves, and he emailed us saying that there's new legislation that came out to say, basically the legislation says that we have to submit a written request for approval to the Board of Education in order to have this in our district. So that's what we're here to do today. And we just want to show you that our heart is to serve. We love the students, we love the teachers, we love what you all do, and our heart is truly to serve. And we have lots of people on board with this program that want to serve the schools in this way. So we hope that you will be able to respond timely. And again, I know you all have so much on your plate. I can't even imagine. So we know it will take a little while because you will still need to discuss it at a later time. But we do look forward to starting September 10th. So that was what we had talked about with Ms. Wilson and Mr. Lund. So anyways, here's some information, and then our proposal is on there as well. So it's just under.
Thank you.
I can pass that down.
Can pass them.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
So we need to approve this by September 10th in order for you to do that in their school, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
and if possible before, so
Okay.
that we can get everything ready.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Jessica Souter. Jessica Souter. Welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm a 30-year-old member, I've lived here for 30 years in this community. I'm a retired school teacher and a parent of two former Oldham County students. I stand before you challenging you to make sure that every family in the Oldham County school system that you represent feels safe and cared for by the schools their children attend. They should all know that their child's privacy and safety will be top priority. We have a significant responsibility to protect students both legally and morally within the framework of our duty to care for them. That means taking responsible steps to prevent foreseeable harm and ensure a safe and supportive learning environment for all. At this time, I would like to address any policies Oldham County has in place to ensure the safety of all students as they return to school, regardless of their legal status. Let me remind you that it's hypocritical to discuss legal status in a country that's historically founded on stolen land. What steps have been taken by the board to ensure Oldham County students and their families feel safe in allowing their children to come to school? Will they be safe on the playgrounds, field trips, or within the walls of our schools? What are your plans when ICE hits the door? You are responsible for not only what students are being taught as core content, but also what they are being taught and how we should handle relationships that exist all around us. Has Oldham County taken the time to make sure policies are in place that prepare for the worst, although hoping the worst scenario doesn't happen? Have policies been established about communicating with our immigrant populations without being posted all over a public website? How will you protect families when they want to come and participate with their child's school during a parent-teacher conference, field trips, after-school activities? What are you prepared to do to protect these families? Beyond the academic support, what mental and emotional support are you prepared to offer our immigrant families and their children? What support will you offer the other students who have developed friendships with these immigrant families? What online safety guidelines have you designed to be taught to students and staff about posting? What guidelines have you put in place for posting students' photos and names on websites? I would love to say in this community that we shouldn't have to worry about this, but I'm not naive enough to know or to believe that there aren't members in this community that would rejoice in reporting another member of this community. As far as transportation is concerned, what safety measures does Oldham County Board have in place to protect students at the bus stop? I'm sure parents are concerned about the safety of their child at a bus stop. Honestly, this community is concerned enough that the walks that we used to see them making in town with their families have all but disappeared. They are no longer being seen. What assurances do families have that the school resource officer will not share information with the Oldham County Sheriff's Office, which has signed a 287G agreement? Thank you. I hope you really take this into consideration.
Thank you. Michael Fox. How are you?
Good evening. For those of you that I don't know, I know a few people over here. My name is Michael Fox. I have 4 children in Oldham County Schools, a 7th grade son at East Oldham Middle School, 5th grade son at Locust Grove, a 1st grade daughter at Locust Grove, and my youngest daughter is deaf, and as soon as she turns 3, she'll be at Oldham County Preschool this fall. I feel a little outnumbered, but you probably, if you don't dig into maybe the March Locust Grove SPDM minutes on their website, or if you didn't watch the live stream of the special called session in June, you might not know who LifeWise is. So I do have a couple concerns. I have 3 that I would like to share with this group, and I'll try to be really brief with those. My first is just, what does LifeWise offer Oldham County Schools? Is LifeWise creating an opportunity for students and families that they can't already get somewhere else, either through Sunday school, church services, homeschooling, private schools? I was going to quote from the June 9th meeting, and they stated it again, that LifeWise would implement a program in Oldham County Schools that would increase student attendance and decrease in-school and out-of-school suspensions. Since Locust Grove is the one that's brought up, if you actually look at data from the 23-24 school report card, Locust Grove's attendance was higher than the district or state average. And if you look at the suspension data for the last 2 years, Locust Grove was 4th out of 9 district elementary schools, so I'm not sure what issue they're addressing there. In the essence of time, my second point was, does LifeWise align with the values and mission of Oldham County Schools? I was going to read the mission and vision statement. I don't think I have time to do that. I will just point out that nowhere in there do you see language about specific religious values or moral instruction. When I saw mention of LifeWise, like I said, in the March Locust Grove SPDM minutes, I tried to do some investigating. I talked with Mr. Deeves because I was a former employee of Oldham County Schools. Sent some information to this body. The only person who responded was Mr. Springer, who did email me back on May 28th that you've inquired about the program and based on the information do not have a concern at this time. I was advised to consult with Locust Grove's SPDM, and I will say that after I talked to a lawyer with KDE, Locust Grove's SPDM does not have statutory authority to approve a release time religious instruction program. That's this body. So Mr. Springer said there were no concerns. I emailed some. I'll just try to share really briefly. If you look up YouTube, there's an article, Revival Among Youth, a Powerful Solution to Public School Crisis. LifeWise founder, and you can scroll to the 1345 mark, says, and I quote, "Should public schools be abolished? Maybe." Throughout that same YouTube interview, multiple times talks about he is an advocate for school choice. In the fall, I think the state of Kentucky very clearly stated their opinion on school choice. So did the residents of Oldham County. Further articles that LifeWise's founder, Joel Penton, cites, talks about public schools as LifeWise's mission field, and talks about 4 to 14 years as the age that is the ideal time to recruit children, and that's their most fruitful field. This is from LifeWise's own website. There is a document of difficult questions. How can I honor my parents who don't follow God? My mom's boyfriend lives with us. Is that a sin? My parents divorced. Did they break God's rule? An entire section on gender and identity questions. Again, I don't know how that's appropriate for elementary school students, so I'm not going to read all of those to you. I just want to finish that with, sorry, got off page. If you follow up other articles about LifeWise in Ohio, as they already mentioned, the goal is to start during related arts time, but you can read articles about districts in Ohio where eventually parents wanted their students to participate in LifeWise and related arts. So to compromise, the school solutions were to the students who opted out, just sit in study hall. So for those of us whose children would opt out of such a program, if we think study hall is an appropriate learning opportunity for 3rd through 5th graders, I'm not sure. LifeWise posted a job posting on April 24th looking for a teacher. The qualifications were a minimum of 2 years in a school or church setting. Again, if you go back to Oldham County's mission statement, guided by highly skilled teachers, I'm not sure if that meets that need. And further down in the job posting, because they are a religious organization, federal law creates an exception where they can discriminate and hire based on religious beliefs. In my opinion, Oldham County Schools, if you approved and endorsed this program, is endorsing a particular set of religious beliefs and dangerously close to violating the Establishment's Clause. I think the people behind me here probably have very good intentions, but I think when you research some of those things, that the conclusion of LifeWise as an organization is they don't value public education. This is a group that is very in favor of school choice, and because they can't get that in many states, this is their best option until that is an option for them and they can get funding that way. The last thing I will say, just related to KRS statutes, when I talked to Mr. Deeves, the original statute talked about the school district may survey parents on a desire for moral instruction, and that's what led my initial conversation. I just said, Mr. Deeves, I went back through my email. I never got the survey to express how I felt about this. And he told me, well, the word may gives the board some culpability there. So if you look at the new law, very first sentence, the Board of Education of a local school district may provide an opportunity for pupils to attend moral instruction in their jurisdiction. Does not say it's required. And if you go to Section 8, each board shall submit the following quarterly: the name of the applicant, the date, the local board's approval or denial, and the request was denied, the reason. There is no explanation of what are acceptable reasons or not. There's some other language in the job post, and I was going to point out that the roles of a LifeWise employee are to attend school open houses and other outreach. So this is not just a simple parents can do this. They're going to push back and try to get as much access to schools like Locust Grove as they can. And I'm just going to end this in summary. The district did not survey parents as part of the old statute. LifeWise tried to get approval from Locust Grove's SBDM before this body. If the district is going to approve this program simply because the law says the district doesn't have to spend any money on this and the district won't be liable when students are being transported for release time, that says to me as a parent the district is more concerned about their own liability than finding programs that are evidence-based interventions that will actually benefit students and align with the district's stated mission and vision. And in this body's purpose, you should be advocating for public education. Thank you.
Thank you. Hunter, is it Cordell? Welcome.
Hey, welcome. Thank you. I had wanted to make some comments about the cell phone policy. I was hoping to be here for the first reading. I understand we've now postponed that, so my comments are going to be a lot more generic than I had originally hoped. So I've been teaching in Oldham County Schools for 11 years now. I've had the opportunity of teaching some of your students. I've worked with some of the people here in this room. I wanted to talk about the cell phone policy really from two different angles, from the angle of parent and the angle of teacher. As a parent, I've got 3 kids. They're young enough that this isn't a major concern. They're elementary school students at LaGrange Elementary, 4th grade and going into 1st grade. But still, tablet time, video games, things like that, and I can already see kind of those negative effects and the need for us to closely monitor that at home. As a parent, I have to trust the school, period. I don't work at LaGrange Elementary. It's not my place to comment on their policies or how they enforce them or what they do there. I have to trust they've got my kids' best intention at heart from 7 to 3:30, right, when I get them back. I have to trust the SRO. If there's an emergency that happens there, again, any parents, God willing, it never happens, but every parent's worst nightmare is that there's some emergency situation, right? And as a father, my instinct would be immediately to run to my kids and save them. I can't do that. I have to trust the SRO is a better professional at that than I am. And so I've got to trust the professionals, all right? That lets me pivot to the teacher angle. As a teacher, I'm not going to repeat what was said earlier. She's way more qualified with the psychology of it. I was going to bring up some of that, but I think the earlier speaker nailed all that for me. As a teacher, intuitively, the kids I'm working with now in my 11th year teaching are similar to kids with like ADD when I started teaching, right? And I'm talking kids without a diagnosis, just base level attention. It is obvious. It is apparent. And kids who struggle with attention because of a diagnosis, not to be grim, but are nearly lost. That is a consistent battle with those students just to keep them attending. So as a teacher, I'm not change resistant. I love new pieces of technology. I love new gadgets. I love new opportunities. But the question is always the same. How does this help student outcomes? And I'm left wondering, what do cell phones offer that, say, a one-to-one Chromebook policy doesn't offer? One-to-one Chromebooks offer the same amount of access. They can be monitored through GoGuardian, which we now have access to as a district-wide thing. They are much more powerful in terms of what kids can do with research and how they interact with the various tools we have. Why have a cell phone at all? It doesn't really help me in the classroom. And when I think about how we handle this from an enforcement perspective, the biggest hurdle from the teacher perspective is, do I have support from my admin? Period. And I'm not trying to throw any particular admin under the bus here. I love that the shoe example got brought up because I have had an admin tell me, if you do that in your room and a cell phone gets destroyed or stolen or lost and a parent complains, I will not support you. As a teacher, guess what I translate that as? I'm not doing that. I'm not going to fight a parent in the community by myself. So it's not up to me to tell you what the policy is. That's not my burden. That's not my responsibility. I didn't win an election. That's you guys. But whatever policy you make, it is important that the admin know that you will back them up when their teachers enforce that policy. And if the admin know that, they will communicate that to the teachers, and the teachers will then communicate that. I have absolute faith that this board is going to put together an awesome policy that will help protect our students. I think the data is very clear that we need a policy, that this is not a positive thing in our schools. I have absolute faith in you. Just wanted to give my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Michael Duncan. Hello.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Michael Duncan, and my wife, my 4 children and I, we all live in LaGrange, and my children attend East Oldham Middle School, Oldham County High School, and now U of L. We also attend St. James and Pee Wee Valley, and we are very involved with the local YMCA, so we're active in the community. And welcome, Superintendent Harold.
Thank you.
To Oldham County. You may have heard recent events regarding community pushback against data center proposals. This highlights to me the need for all Oldham County neighbors to rise up and stand together for each other, not just for ourselves, but for our neighbors, when the moment requires it. And also the need for local leaders to listen to the community. It is with this in mind that I share words and echoing what someone else has shared with you. I wanted to echo and share words from poet Robert Arnold with you, with the board, and with all of our neighbors from his piece, On Respect and the Recognition of Differences. It is a peculiar madness of our time that we are asked to believe simultaneously in two opposing delusions. First, that we are all so hopelessly divided by race, creed, identity, and culture that no bridge can be built between us. And second, that these differences are meaningless, that we are all the same, that race and gender and faith are illusions that should be ignored for the sake of some tepid, flavorless harmony. The modern mind is expected to swallow both contradictions at once, and like a well-trained circus animal, nod along as if the cognitive dissonance doesn't rattle the teeth out of our skulls. The truth is always more complex and less palatable. Human beings are not uniform. We are not homogeneous cogs in some great machine of civilization, interchangeable and indistinct, nor are we doomed to eternal conflict because we are different. We are, at our core, creatures of culture, shaped by the landscapes that bore us, the struggles that tempered us, and the traditions that cradled us when the world sought to break us. To erase these things, to insist that we are all just one human race and nothing more, is to strip the color from the painting, to drain the blood from the body, to commit, in essence, a pilot and well-intentioned genocide against the stories that define us. And yet here lies the paradox. Respect for our differences does not mean submission to division. It does not mean constructing new hierarchies for oppression, nor does it require us to engage in an eternal contest of suffering, where the only prize is the moral authority to demand that others bow in shame. It simply means acknowledgement, to see a person as they are and not as who we wish them to be. Not as some sanitized, inoffensive abstraction of human existence, but as a fully formed, breathing, thinking, struggling individual with history and context. And it's the only real respect that matters. And it is simple, is undeniable, and the fact that the right to exist in peace does not hinge on your comprehension. You do not need to understand someone to respect them. You need only to be decent. But decency, it seems, is in short supply. And we have all been trained like half-mad dogs to believe that we must pick a side in every cultural war, that every acknowledgement of another's identity is a threat to our own, and that to respect someone's pronouns or traditions or struggles is somehow an act of self-erasure. So we rage and we bicker, and we erect false idols of purity, either in the form of colorblind oblivion or militant identity warfare, while the actual work of living alongside one another's neighbors goes completely undone. Respect is not complicated. It's not an equation to be solved or a battlefield to be won. It is the simple daily act of allowing others the same dignity you would want for yourself. And if you wake up in the morning unafraid, if you move through the world without worrying that your skin, your name, your body, your love, or your faith will get you harassed, detained, beaten, or killed, then you should want the same for everyone else. And not because you're obligated, not because it's required of you by law or by social pressure, but because in the great and terrible lottery of truth in birth, you were given a gift others were not. And the only truly human thing to do is to want to share it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kristen Brown. Hi, Kristen.
Hi. I'm going to echo what the previous person said about cell phones. Our first speaker spoke better than I ever could about that, but I do have an interesting perspective. I have two daughters. One is an 8th grader at OCMS, and one is a 5th grader at Buckner. I am a nurse at the trauma center downtown, and my husband is a state trooper. My mom retired as a guidance counselor from OCMS, and the impact that cell phones are having is just absolutely overwhelming. I've taken care myself of patients who have been the victim of deep fakes and have ended their life or caused significant injury to themselves. And I'm just looking for the board to take a stance. I'm on SBDM and we've talked about it a lot, but as someone else said, you know, we're really looking for like support across the district because when we met and read our cell phone policy, what we realized is we shouldn't actually have a problem with cell phones. Our policy is fine. The problem is the enforcement and having the tools to back it up. We have great teachers, but some of the teachers, well, the majority of them, they don't want that to be their job, to enforce cell phones, to be constantly looking at kids. Our kids use backpacks, they don't use their lockers, so if the rule is don't have your cell phone on your person and they have it in their backpack every time they go for a pencil, are they looking at their phone? Are they sending a picture? You know, the stakes are just really, really high right now. We've had issues with bullying at school, and so just trying to echo what everyone else is saying, like looking for the board to get behind. And I was hoping the Kentucky House bill would have some teeth behind it and like give us something to go on, but it pretty much said, it's your all's responsibility. So I hope that we can take that responsibility to heart and realize that the stakes have truly never been higher for these kids that are coming through. And yeah, so thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kristen. And last, we have Karen, is it Solta? I'm sorry, I probably did not pronounce that correctly. Welcome.
Thank you. It's Karen Soltow. So I'm coming as an Oldham County resident, and I've had children in the school systems. My kids are grown now. And also, I'm a therapist, a licensed clinical social worker with a specialty in marriage and family, children, and also trauma. I've worked at Fort Knox with traumatized soldiers, and I've also did 4 years where I was the mental health person for Kentucky Refugee Ministries. And with a lot of refugees, they come here with a lot of trauma. So that's what I'm speaking about today, is about the immigration and ICE and what's been going on. I have a real deep concern about this. On the good side, you know, we do have in this country that every child has a right to an education regardless of immigration status, as guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution and upheld by the Supreme Court. Can everybody hear me? No? Okay. And I had trouble hearing, and I was up pretty close. All right. So that's good. Another part that I think is positive is the Federal Education Rights and Privacy Act prevents schools from releasing students' education records, including information about immigration status. I don't know if that's still true, because week by week, the policies keep changing. I hope it is. So we have, on the negative side, as of January 21st, 2025, Department of Homeland Security ended longstanding federal policy that schools are protected areas, among other places like churches. All previously protected areas have had to think about how to proceed. I think we would all agree on the importance of safe spaces to learn, to worship, to seek medical care. And of course, the first safest place should be your home. So my question, she asked a lot of good questions, but I was hoping you all could actually answer some of them, is, you know, how is Oldham County Schools addressing this? Because is there a written plan? I looked up Oldham County Schools and tried to find what are you saying on your, I didn't find anything. And I don't know if you're giving anything to families, or that families with immigrant status or mixed status can find information or being told about things, because there are things that could help them feel a little safer. And I think they need to come to school, like all of our children, going to school and feeling safe. And, you know, a lot of them are scared and worried, and friends are worried and scared. And so, you know, is somebody going to show up at the school? ICE. And if they do, what's your written plan and protocol if ICE shows up? You know, I know previously, and I've been doing work in this immigration area recently, there's been a thing about privacy zones where ICE can't go. So like in the principal's office or where the administration is and things like that. Unless there's a warrant signed by a judge with somebody's particular name. Is that going to change? I don't know. So what are you all doing to reassure families? Are you training teachers about how to deal with things like this? Just like any other incident in a school, now we have to worry, you all have to worry about ICE showing up and what that does to students. And how are you protecting everybody? So the information that you share with families, training for teachers, you know, what are you doing to lessen fear for students from immigrant families and their families? I know of families that are afraid to show up anywhere or at school to pick their children up. And that creates fear for all students and their families. So you really can't learn in an environment if you're scared. So those are things that I like to see, to know what we're doing as Oldham County Schools to make it a safe place where students feel safe. There's actions that Oldham County Schools could do with families to help them feel more supported and give them information where they can feel better. Because I think what happens is if you don't know what to do or where to go, you end up much more fearful. And then do teachers feel they can help their students? Because if there isn't the support of the school system, then teachers feel it's up to them individually to do things that really is outside of their scope, right? So things like helping actions that can help families feel better can be that you update student emergency contact information. You could have information that you give to students and their families, like update student emergency contacts with alternative contacts if no parent or guardian's available. You can encourage making child care arrangements with trusted adult. And they could also, you could have a link to where somebody could get a power of attorney. If a parent's picked up or both parents are picked up, what happens to these children? That's a worry for these families. Making sure that, you know, encouraging people that if they have American-born children, that they're automatically citizens, that they have passports. So if a parent gets deported, they can take their children with them to wherever, if that's what they decide to do. But you can't do that without a passport. So there's things that, and then the really big one is to have a family plan, and you could have a link for a whole section on like immigration and a link for people to look up how do you do a family plan so they can kind of be proactive about what to do instead of, you know, not having a plan. And if they have a plan, they're going to feel better about what they're doing and what could happen. So information, education, and feeling that Oldham County Schools is there for all the students, including these students.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. We have a recognition for tonight, so we'll move on to that.
I know Heather and Miss Lori are not going to want to come up here, but I do ask that you come right up here. For the second year in a row, Oldham County Schools Communications Team, Miss Lori Webb and Heather Peters, have been recognized for their communication efforts by the National School Public Relations Association. The Publication and Digital Media Awards recognize outstanding tactical materials that exemplify the impactful, innovative work shaping the future of school communication. The Oldham Insider, put together monthly by Miss Lori Webb and Heather Peters, received the highest award possible, the Award of Excellence. In addition, the district's printed publication, Our Schools, Our Stories, Connecting Our Community, also received recognition as an outstanding publication in the magazine. This publication requires careful planning, writing, and editing, and it is rewarding to see their hard work recognized on a national level. So if you all would, let's give these two ladies a round of applause.
Thank you, that's great. Let's see, moving right along to action items. Ms. Harold?
Yes, we have item A, consider approval of KSBA policy revisions for the fiscal year '26. You'll see attachments in this area for the medication change, the forms that will go with the medication changes. So that one will take a first reading, and we'll need to sort that out from the second reading of all other policies. And then remember, we are pulling out the cell phone policy to not go through a first or second reading tonight.
Any questions on that? Can I get a motion to approve action item 12A, made by Ms. Sheffer, seconded by Ms. Hunley? All those in favor? And that's 5-0. Next.
Second item is consider approval of the fiscal year '25 unaudited financial report. We have Ms. Carrie Alexander give us the information to that underneath the superintendent report.
Any questions on that? Can I get a motion to approve? Made by Ms. Hunley, seconded by Ms. Sheffer. All those in favor? And that's 5-0.
Item C is the ARC chairperson approval for the fiscal year '26. That is an attachment in the packet.
Can I get a motion to approve? Made by Ms. Hunley, seconded by Mr. Cedillo. All those in favor? And that's 5-0.
Item D is the Kentucky Association of School Administrators information. So previous superintendents have been evaluated on 7 superintendent standards. Kentucky School Board Association is piloting with cohort 14, which is the cohort I'm in, as well as 7, I believe, superintendents across the state to take that evaluation process down to 5 standards. No standards were lost. Standards 6 and 7 were embedded in to the 5, so that information is in there for approval.
Can I get a motion to approve? Made by Ms. Sheffer, seconded by Ms. Hunley. All those in favor? And that's 5-0.
Item E is my PGP, and so that is in there for you to review. That can be changed, discussed, obviously, throughout the year, but you'll see my focus areas from that current PGP, and so that will need approval.
Any questions on that? Can I get a motion to approve? Made by Mr. Springer, seconded by Ms. Hunley. All those in favor? And that's 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. And information items.
Item A is energy report. So I believe that one is in there as well. Any questions on energy report?
No, we'll just take that under advisement.
Okay. The second one you'll see is the ORR report. And so that one is in there as reference too.
And we'll take that under advisement as well. And same with preschool report. Yep.
Is item C.
Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Made by Ms. Henley, seconded by Ms. Sheffer. All those in favor? That's 5-0. Thank you, everyone.